Hi guys, welcome to the second bass drum coordination workout. Today we're going to move the snare drum on all the 16 notes, keeping the same feet pattern. We're going to play 2 measures of 8 notes and 2 measures of 16 notes with our feet, and we're going to move the backbeat, playing the first and second 16 notes, then the second, third, then third, fourth, then fourth and first. This is a very good exercise to learn how to keep our sound even and playing, keeping the groove while we shift our left hand and we play a leg motion and then shifting to an ankle motion. These are all details that usually we don't pay attention to, but they really make the difference in our playing, because if we learn how to do all this shifting and to have the freedom of move the snare drum, our playing will be much solid, and it's gonna benefit all the people, like the music itself, because everybody that's gonna play with us is gonna feel like they have a very solid foundation to play on, because of course our job is to keep the time, so we can't be afraid of or not play even in this shifting. So it's very important to work on these little things, and of course we are going to play on all these combinations in this way, because these combinations combined to the first coordination video and to the next that we'll do will make us become very complete in really shifting everything that can be the snare drum to feet to the cymbals and so on, to the point where we will have the freedom of really doing what we want with our limbs, without really making anyone notice that we are actually shifting and doing these kind of things. So it's really helpful to make us our limbs free to shift and move on the 16 notes whenever we want, keeping certain parts of our body doing the same thing. In this case, it's going to be the right hand on the cymbal and our feet shifting from 8 notes to 16 notes pattern. It's a very good step because it allows us to go from a conscious way of playing, so in a section where we really think of what we're doing and we concentrate on, for example, this time is going to be our left hand on the snare, shifting it, making sure that we're playing the right way, to an unconscious way, so something that's it's going to become more muscular memories, okay, something that is just natural and spontaneous, because our brain and our body are so used to playing all these combinations that then when we will improvise or we will play live or we will have to, create a piece of music, we will just have it in our hands and it will just, be easy to apply it straight away on the moment without having to always practice it and taking days to just practice that little part. So it's a good, I call it coordination because it literally coordinates our limbs to have the freedom of moving. And I don't call it independence because for me are two different approaches for our brain. So this is just coordinating because all the sounds that we're producing are the end of everything we're doing. It's for the same thing. Instead, when we play independence, we create different sounds. For example, Latin requires a lot of independence, where we play a clave that's doing one thing, and then maybe we're improvising with all the other limbs that are producing another, sound that then combined make a piece of music, but they're not all in the same direction, let's say. So that's, for me, that's a big difference. So I prefer to call this coordination. A very important thing in this exercise, which will transform the exercise from pretty easy to very hard, it's going to be paying attention to how we play each part of the drums. The goal of this exercise is to, in fact, giving us the freedom of kind of separate our body, so making sure that the kick will go on playing at the same time, in the same way, with the same timing, without really getting affected from what happens on the upper part of the body. And so that really clears our playing. It really makes it clearer, and it's kind of like we will always have the performance that we should have in the recording studio, already edited though. So we're going to become machines. Like our kicks will have to go on doing the same thing no matter what happens, and then on the upper part, same thing. We will have to control everything. So playing in the right way, all these instruments at the same time, because then kicks are one instrument, and then the snare is another instrument, and the cymbal is going to be another instrument, but we will have to play them all together at the same time. We will have to give the feeling of being three different people playing three different instruments, but instead, of course, it's just us. And I always repeat this thing because it's very important that this gets in your mind. So we will start from the kicks, and we will make sure that we play all the notes even in space, so they have the same space between them. And then the dynamics, we will pay attention to the dynamics too. So we will make sure that these dynamics, that the dynamics are always going to be very even, so we don't play a stroke stronger than the other, and so on, so that we really create, a very solid sound. If we want to have this, of course. If we don't want to add dynamics or something to the kicks, which in that case, of course, you will create your pattern, your dynamics pattern, and then you will have to keep that going, playing everything else on top of it. So the way to break this exercise down is to start from playing the kicks and make sure that everything is even, and then once we get that down, so if it takes 2 bars, great. If it takes 50 bars, it's okay. Okay, until we're not sure. And if we record ourselves so that we can listen from the outside how we've been playing, and make sure that the kicks are perfect, and until that's not solid, we shouldn't go on. We should just stick to that and make sure that that is played correctly. Then we will add the right cymbal, and we'll make sure that nothing changes in the kicks, and that we have a very good right cymbal sound, so that if we want it loud or if we want it lower or whatever the volume and the way we want to play this, it has to be steady and always be the same. And then we're going to add the snare, and we're going to shift the snare every 4 bars. We're going to play on the first and second 16 notes first, then second third, then third fourth, then fourth first, and then from there we're going to shift to left hand lead. So we're going to do the same thing, keeping a very nice even sound on the hi-hat, and then we're going to play the backbeat in the same way on the snare with the right hand, and make sure that nothing changes, and that the quality of the sound and the playing, it's great, it's perfect. If we don't practice this exercise in this way, this exercise won't really give you any great benefit. It won't really make a big difference, because we're not going to play hard things. We're not going to do paradiddles on our feet and 6 tuplets on our hands yet. So if we don't play it in this way and we don't practice it in this way, of course this exercise loses its value, so it's going to be more a waste of time. So make sure that we really play in the right way everything, and we have a good groove, and we're we smooth in playing this, and we can slow it down and then we can speed it up, and make sure that we can play in the same way at every level and have a great control. If you can already do that, you are already a very good drummer, but don't boost your ego too much, because sometimes we just feel like, oh yeah, we can, I can do this, and then you compare to other drummers and there are better drummers, and of course until you don't have a way of compare yourself to someone else, it's kind of hard to define how many times you should practice this and for how long. But I suggest to really practice it in this way, and even when you record yourself and you listen to yourself, you should listen this for at least 3 times. 1 to just focus on the kick, 1 to just focus on the ride, and 1 to just focus on your snare drum. So making sure that everything sounds perfect, how it should be in a recording studio after you've edited drums already. So just a machine gun or a perfect drum machine. Okay, let's do this. I will start from the kicks. We'll add the rest of the things. This is going to be also a demonstration of the workout. I will just play a 1 speed. Of course, then you will find the BPMs to download the clicks that you can download with this exercise, and they will go from a slower tempo to a faster tempo. Try to cover all the BPM ranges, and always to play this in exercise perfectly at every speed. Then we will keep the same feet pattern, but we are going to shift the snare from playing it on 1 and 3 to 2 and 4, and then do the same thing with the left hand lead. Okay, so let's work on the quality of our performance. Let's stop giving to the drumming community the impression that metal drummers aren't as good as other musicians, other drummers, because other kind of music, the drummers that plays kind of music, just because we focus more on playing a lot of notes and being super fast rather than the quality of everything that we do. The quality has to be more important than speed, always. And if we don't practice in this way and we don't become a very good players, we will keep giving the impressions to other musicians that speed is not everything and so on. So we have to really make sure that the quality of everything that we do, it's super high, it's at top level, that we can play these kind of grooves in the perfect way. As how Steve Gadd plays his grooves, we have to be able to play these kind of grooves. So if the notes aren't even, let's focus on them, let's work on that, let's understand why, let's go on our technique, let's go on our balance, whatever it is, and work on that. Let's make sure that our right cymbal is straight, that we're playing it in the right way, that we don't have strange accents or dynamics changed based on what we're playing with our left hand, or the shifting on the kicks. And let's make sure that our backbeat and rim shot sounds always the same, that we always hit the center and where it's unison with the kick and with the right cymbal, and everything works perfectly. That we record this, we open the recording session, we check that all our strokes are in the right place. Let's work on the quality, because without that, speed is nothing. You won't have a nice sound. No one wants to play with a drummer that's super fast but not accurate. And who does means that you're in the wrong band. And I assure you this, because if you don't create the right product, if you can't give the right impression to other people outside, that's always going to be a mediocre product, a mediocre band. It's not going to go over that. That's the difference with the, you know, with the big drummers out there, is that they can provide quality on top of everything, and quality, it's never cheap. Let's make sure that when we play left hand lead, we are as loose and free as we play with our right hand. That will open all this part of the drum kit and will allow us in time to play accents and lead with the left hand and without having any problems on our grooves. So these are all very important details, very important things that will bring your playing from what it is to another level. It's gonna bring it up to the pro level, where really you go in a studio recording, you check Steve Gadd, Vinny Colaiuta, and all these guys recording sessions, and they look like already edited. And they're not. They're just the original tracks, because they're so well prepared and they work so much on the quality of what they do, that every strokes that they play, it's right there in the right place at the right time with the right dynamic. We have to get to the same level, and I know, and I'm pretty sure that 90% of the drummers, the metal drummers especially out there, and I don't want to take anything away from the metal drummers, but it's just our approach, the fact that we focus more on speed than on anything else. Most of the times, at least, we don't really pay too much attention to that. We don't listen to our tracks one layer at a time, okay? Only kicks, and make sure that everything works in every combination. And maybe 6 out of 8 combinations are perfect, and there are those 2 combinations that you have to work on, and so on. So make sure everything that you're playing, every single note, it's perfect, it's exactly where you want to be. Check that the ride doesn't get weird dynamics, that the backbeat is perfect and exactly the same sound every time and in the right position. And quality first, always. That's my suggestion with this lesson. Have a good practice, and I'll see you next week.